There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize no one is coming to save them. No mentor, no friend, no parent, no lover. The noise of the world fades, and what remains is silence. It's a kind of silence that makes your chest tighten. Because suddenly, there's no hand to hold, no comforting voice to guide you. You look around, and there's only you. That silence is terrifying, but Carl Jung would tell you that it is also sacred. It's the beginning of transformation, the moment when you stop depending on the world and start depending on your own inner strength. Jung believed that true growth begins in solitude, but not the loneliness that drains you, the solitude that awakens you. When life withdraws its helpers, when validation and support disappear, it's not punishment, it's an initiation. The psyche, he said, pushes people into solitude when they're ready to meet themselves. Because as long as you're surrounded by approval and guidance, you remain someone else's creation. Only when you're alone do you begin to discover who you truly are. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung said, is to become who you truly are. But that privilege demands that you pass through the valley of isolation. It demands that you lose your attachments, the roles, the identities, the safety nets that make you feel secure. Most people never make it through this valley because they're too afraid of the quiet. They fill it with distractions, relationships, and noise to drown out the voice within. But if you can stand still long enough, if you can face that silence without running, something extraordinary happens. You begin to hear the sound of your own soul. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. It's not about rejecting others. It's about no longer depending on them for your sense of self. Individuation is learning to stand on your own psychological feet. To get ahead when no one is there for you, you must take that step. You must move from seeking validation to self-knowledge, from external approval to internal truth. And the first stage is terrifying because it feels like loss. Most people are addicted to being seen. Their actions, choices, and beliefs are all shaped by who's watching. When the world stops watching, they collapse. Jung saw this collapse as a kind of spiritual detox. The psyche removes external mirrors so you can see yourself directly. When the applause fades, when praise turns to silence, you're being asked to look inward. When no one believes in you, you're being asked to believe in yourself. The absence you feel isn't cruelty. It's your soul forcing independence. In Jungian terms, this is the confrontation with the self, the archetype of totality that lives deep within every human being. The self doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about your evolution. It removes the supports you cling to so that your inner structure can grow. Like a parent who lets a child stumble so they can learn balance, life sometimes steps back so you can finally stand on your own. That's why growth often begins with heartbreak, betrayal, or loss. These are not punishments, they're awakenings. But solitude is not easy. When you're alone, the mind becomes louder. Old regrets surface. Unhealed wounds whisper. The things you've been avoiding finally have space to speak. Jung said that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The loneliness you feel is often your unconscious rising to the surface, asking to be seen. If you resist it, you'll turn to distractions. But if you sit with it, if you listen, it begins to change shape. Pain becomes insight. Fear becomes intuition. The silence becomes your teacher. To get ahead when no one is there for you, you must stop waiting for permission. Jung believed that most people never act because they're waiting to feel ready. They wait for a sign, a mentor, a friend to tell them it's time. But the psyche matures through experience, not through reassurance. Readiness is an illusion. You become ready by doing. You evolve not by certainty, but by courage. Every time you take a step without guidance, you build inner authority, and inner authority is the foundation of independence. When you stop depending on others, you will lose people. Jung called this the conflict between belonging and authenticity. Most individuals choose belonging. They adjust, conform, and shrink to keep approval. But the ones who awaken choose authenticity, even if it means being misunderstood. They know that belonging bought with self-betrayal is not belonging at all. If you want to get ahead when no one supports you, you must be willing to walk through that loneliness, the loneliness of truth. Because comfort is temporary, but authenticity endures. Jung warned that people call themselves normal only because they're avoiding self-confrontation. They fit into the crowd to avoid looking into their own depths. But that's a form of sleep. To truly move forward, you must break away from the collective hypnosis. You must dare to think differently, act differently, live differently. That often means losing your sense of certainty, because certainty lives in imitation. Growth begins the moment imitation ends. The world may not understand your path. That's fine. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become real. One of Jung's most profound insights was that isolation activates the unconscious. When the outer world stops reflecting who you are, the inner world begins to. Dreams become vivid. Intuition sharpens. Symbols appear. Life starts speaking through subtle signs and coincidences, what Jung called synchronicities. These are not random. They are communications from the unconscious, guiding you toward integration. The same energy you once sought from others begins to speak within. You stop chasing advice because wisdom begins to surface naturally. But this requires humility. The ego wants control. It wants clear answers and guarantees. The unconscious doesn't work that way. It speaks through feelings, instincts, and images, through what Jung called the language of symbols. Learning to listen means surrendering the need for control. It means trusting your own intuition, even when it defies logic. This is how the lonely become wise, by turning inward and learning to interpret the language of their own soul. As you walk alone, you begin to see how much of life's struggle comes from dependency. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of being misunderstood. They need others to approve before they can act. But no one will ever fully understand you. Your consciousness is unique. No one else carries your exact blend of fears, dreams, and memories. That means your path will always appear strange until it succeeds. To get ahead, you must keep walking, even when no one else sees what you see. Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that are important to you." That's the burden of self-awareness. When you awaken, your language changes. You start speaking from deeper levels of truth, and not everyone can hear you. But that isolation isn't a curse, it's purification. It's life pruning away what no longer matches your vibration. Don't chase to be understood. Understand yourself, and peace will follow. Of course, independence has shadows too. When people first wake up, they often swing from dependency to defiance. They say, "I don't need anyone." They harden, isolate, and close their hearts. But that's not strength. It's armor. Jung would remind us that wholeness isn't rejection of others. It's integration. True independence doesn't mean building walls. It means no longer relying on others for identity. It means being open, but not dependent. Loving, but not needy. Connected, but centered. Jung believed that the inward journey always returns outward. You don't stay in solitude forever. You go inward to build consciousness, and then you bring that consciousness back into the world. The one who has faced solitude becomes a healer, a leader, a creator. Their presence awakens others. While the crowd reacts, they respond. While others imitate, they originate. While others seek applause, they seek meaning. Getting ahead isn't about racing. It's about aligning your life with your soul's rhythm. If you're in a season of life where no one supports you, understand this. You're being refined. The loneliness you feel is not emptiness. It's space being made for the person you're becoming. The friends who left, the silence that replaced applause, the stillness you can't escape, they're all part of the initiation. You're being stripped of dependence so you can stand in sovereignty. Use this time to build foundations that no rejection can shake. Clarity, patience, purpose, discipline. Forgiveness is also part of the process. You can't rise while carrying resentment. Forgive those who couldn't see you. Forgive the ones who left. Forgive yourself for needing them. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it releases energy trapped in it. That energy becomes fuel for creation. Without forgiveness, you remain tied to the past. With it, you are free to create your future. Jung taught that the self cannot emerge in comfort. It emerges in conflict, the conflict between who you were and who you're meant to be. When no one supports you, that conflict becomes visible. You have two choices: shrink back into dependence or step forward into independence. The second choice will hurt, but it will liberate you. Because when you stop chasing validation, you start generating power. And then something beautiful happens. The very people who once doubted you begin to notice your strength. Not because you seek their attention, but because your energy changes. The world respects those who no longer need its approval. Opportunities appear where none existed. Synchronicities increase. Life begins to move in harmony with your authenticity. Jung said that when you live in alignment with your true self, you meet the life that was waiting for you. But that life only appears once you stop waiting for someone else to lead you there. So, if you find yourself walking alone, keep walking. The silence that feels unbearable right now is the silence that transforms you. Every lonely step is carving independence into your character. Every quiet night is teaching you to trust your own wisdom. You are not falling behind. You are being rebuilt. You are learning what Jung called the art of becoming whole. Getting ahead when no one is there for you isn't about proving the world wrong. It's about proving yourself right, about realizing that everything you needed was within you all along. You will emerge from this solitude not bitter, but strong. Not closed, but calm. Not dependent, but complete. Because once you've learned to walk alone, you'll never fear walking again. And that, Jung would say, is the greatest freedom of all.